And there we have it, Matteo Mori against Gregor Kowalski. Oh, they always do it with me, with these difficult to pronounce names. Matteo Mori opening with a Shambling Vents, and Gregor Kowalski, he seems to be on Affinity. Let's see what matchup he's facing. He starts with a Springleaf Drum and Ornithopter. Now let's see Matteo Mori. He's on white-black Eldrazi Death and Texas control.
But it looks like he is on the more spicy build, and he's 5-0 with it.
Yeah, there we go. Talia, Texas are getting paid already by Gregor Kowalski. Let's see if he's got any non-creature spells or he's just gonna jam all of them creatures. He's got Edge Champion, certainly a good card, I'd say, in this matchup.
Oh, it's huge here. Turn 2 Edge Champion against a board of 2/1 First Striker. That's great, I think.
Yeah, even has 3 other artifacts, so even if one dies, he's still got protection. With the second Ornithopter now entering the battlefield. Second Eldrazi Temple. Let's see what Matteo Mori can do. He's got Leonin Arbiter. He's just gonna destroy some lands here. Doesn't care too much about the Edge Champion. Just 2 decks we haven't seen yet in this particular tournament on camera. Certainly great to see all of this variety in this format. We've seen quite a lot of TitanShift actually. It seems to be shifting towards the red-green Velka deck, the format. Is it that because it's good against Dead Shadow?
No, I don't think that's the reason. It's a deck that's relatively straightforward. It gets the Hour of Promise from Hour of Devastation. I think that's a big reason to pick up the deck right now. And it has always been a popular deck, so I'm not surprised.
Ooh, look at that. Matteo Mori is destroying his own land with Eldrazi Temple, looking for a second colored source. He's got 2 mana floating here. What is he going to do with it? I'm a bit surprised by this play. Not sure what he's aiming to do. He's going to go for... Oh, he wants to go for the Tide Hollows color. He could not do that with the other lands. He just wants to take a look at Gregor Kowalski's hand before it's too late. He recognizes this is the turn. Like, he's still holding 3 cards. Let's take a look. Do you have anything?
He also knew that he would just lose to a plating. Land and plating.
Yep.
He dies in 2 turns probably, or 3.
And also has the Strangler, which he kind of wants to activate on the next turn.
Yeah, but still very aggressive. To Ghost Quarter your own land should only be a last resort.
And not paying off as it seems. Argwant Ravager and Galvanic Blast. Yeah, he's gonna take the Galvanic Blast because at least that one will stay exiled, and then he can Strangler next turn.
Yeah. Otherwise, the Blast takes out the Scholar, and he hasn't really achieved anything.
Now with Darksteel Citadel is the draw for Kowalski. He's got how many artifacts? 1, 2, 3, 4. Activate Nexus 5. Play Citadel 6. Play Argwant Ravager 7. If he gets rid of 3 of them, he can make his champion a 5/5 and then put Matteo on a 4-turn clock. Do you think that's a good play?
No, 4-turn clock is not fast enough. If it's a 2-turn clock, you can think about it. But in this case, he also needs to be a little bit careful, I think.
Now that we know both players' hands, who do you think is favored at this point? Because it's actually hard to tell, right?
It's very close, but I think the Eldrazi player is favored. Assuming that he has lands for his Wasteland Strangler, I think that should be a powerful play next turn. Maybe asking that Ravager what it's going to do.
Ooh, and that's a good draw as well. Drawing Path to Exile. Let's see what he goes for now.
But he has to have more lands, right? He wouldn't just Ghost Quarter himself and then...
Got one more land.
Okay, one more temple maybe.
He can actually tempo. He's got both Pad and Strangler this turn.
So that's perfect with the temple. I think you just target the Outbound Ravager and ask your opponent if he has any responses.
Yeah, there we go. Wasteland Strangler. Get rid of the Galvanic Blast. Oh, look at that. This is a colorless card. It can actually kill the
It
edge
has
champion.
devoid. Well, it can target it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. That doesn't mean it will die here.
But Gregors is gonna need to sacrifice at least one artifact, then sacrifice the Ravager to make it a 4/4, and then he's left with pretty much nothing,
Well,
facing the Tide Hollow Scholar and the Talia.
He would have to play a much slower game, right?
And Matteo can actually not play the Path to Exile because of the Talia.
Small details. Would have been too beautiful.
Too good, yeah. If it's too beautiful, it's probably not true. Let's see what Gregors comes up with. How many artifacts is he gonna sacrifice? Is he gonna sacrifice any artifacts?
The alternative line of just sacrificing the edge champion to the Ravager is also not bad.
He's giving it some time. Let it sink in. Do I want to lose my champion? Or am I going to throw some robots away to make it survive? Seems like he's just going to sacrifice it. Doesn't want to... Yeah, feels like the 4/4 edge champion is not going to... It's -3/-3.
But what is his game plan without the edge champion? That's why I'm asking myself if this is really... is this really happening now with the Blast? I think it will stay in exile, right? I don't know exactly what the wording of the Strangler, but if it doesn't have a target, there shouldn't be the card going to the graveyard, which is kind of relevant. Matteo can just draw another Strangler and have the trigger again.
Yep. He has to say go, as we know. No Path to Exile because of Talia. Let's see what he draws. Is that a Cranial Plating? One of the best cards in the Affinity deck.
No, even if it costs 3.
Yeah, it is a plating, and that's a perfect draw. He's got exactly 4 lands as well. Doesn't even need to tap one of the Ornithopters. Great draw by Gregors. It's hard.
It does cost 3 though. He has to tap an extra mana.
Yeah, there we go. Tap my Nexus. Spire of Industry still up.
So equip Ornithopter, attack, and
attack for 6.
If you want, you can attack for 1 more, animating your Blinkmoth Nexus.
Attack for 7 next turn for 7 as well. 8 if you sacrifice the Arcbound Ravager, because you lose 1 +1/+0, but you get 2 +2 +1/+1.
But next turn, if Matteo leaves open mana, then Gregor will be quite careful.
He does have double black though, so if he attacks with double with double Ornithopter, Cranial Plating can be changed at instant speed for double black. If you want to play around Path to Exile, of course, this turn no need to play around Path to Exile because of Talia.
And because of that, I think you should definitely deal that extra point of damage. It could be the difference between having a lethal attack next turn or not.
Yeah, the Ornithopter is very unlikely to block anyway, because you need it to have 2 lethal attackers next turn.
Yeah, and why would you want to chump block 3 or 2 power creature?
No.
6 artifacts right now.
Yeah, 6, only 6 damage. So he's not tapping that Ornithopter. Matteo goes down to 11, facing down that Cranial Plating. Let's see what he comes up with. He draws. That's an Ether Vial, not the perfect draw on turn 17. Ether Vial, as you said, usually very good on turn 1. Makes the deck function on a different level, but if you draw it in the later game, it's usually useless. No.
And in this particular spot, Thalia even makes it cost 2, so you cannot even sneak it in. And suddenly the Affinity deck is a huge favorite, simply because of this Cranial Plating, changing the dynamics of the game completely.
I feel like that's the advantage of the Affinity deck. Like, most decks rely on a couple of cards, like, that are very good, but the Affinity has more of them. Like Arcbound Ravager, Cranial Plating, Edge Champion. You can even win with Signal Pest attacks.
But to be fair, Cranial Plating is on another level compared to, for example, the Ravager is just a 1/1. You need to invest a lot of cards into it, whereas the Plating is just like this, threatening huge amounts of damage. And with the Blinkmoth Nexus, actually, you don't even need the second Ornithopter as a backup. However, Gregor doesn't have a chance to attack for lethal here, I think, this turn. Maybe that point he missed wouldn't have made the difference, because I think getting up to 10 damage is quite hard.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 artifacts. Yeah. Attack for 8 this turn.
Yeah, and the Ravager plus 1.
Would do it to 9. Yeah, he needed to draw another artifact for 10 for it to matter. But then there was still the path to exile.
But the path wouldn't have... Well, the path on Blinkmoth Nexus, maybe? That would have saved Matteo.
Then he sacrificed it to Ravager. So it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, it does, because it's...
Oh, it's an artifact and deals 1 damage, yeah. So we're gonna see path to exile for 2 mana. Targeting, I'm guessing... Well, the Blinkmoth Nexus? Oh, the Ravager.
Ooh.
What's the plan here? Get rid of the cranial plating and win that way? Does he even have main deck artifact removal? Let's see. Gregor's still at a healthy 17 damage, 17 life. He's gonna tap that Arcbound Ravager for... Then gonna sacrifice it so it won't get exiled. He does not get to search his library for a basic land. Puts the 2 counters on Ornithopter, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. Matteo goes down to 2. Got 1 more draw to get out of it. Oh, there we go. Doesn't even get the draw. Galvanic Blast. Gregor's had his draw was pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Cranial plating off the top when he was in a losing position, it seemed, or at least not in a winning position.
He didn't really have much at that point, because the Ravager was only holding down the fort. It wasn't really able to attack.
Oh, look at that. So many cyber cards for Matteo Mori. He's cybering 8 cards, I believe, including 3 Stony Silence. He's definitely ready for this matchup. 2 Fatal Push, Zealous Persecution. What is he gonna take out? Leonin Arbiter seems like a fine cut, as well as Talia. Talia didn't do much that game, right?
I think Talia is more of a downside for your own deck.
On the play, I could see it, but even then, it's probably just too slow. This is not the matchup where you want to draw Talia.
No, you want your 2 mana legendary 2/1s to be Katakis. Just saying.
It doesn't have any. How about Stony Silence?
It's
That's
okay.
pretty
It's
good.
alright. Yeah, it's not bad.
Doesn't work very well with Talia either. Need
But
three
what
mana.
if you have either Vial on turn 1 and then Stony Silence on turn 2?
Then you still win because you have Stony Silence.
You've solved it.
Yeah. Let's see what he takes out. 4 each. Yep. 4 cat. 4 humans.
Bringing in Zealous Persecution at some number of Stony Silences, we can be sure.
3.
Some more anti-creature cards, Wasteland Strangler. Yeah, this is looking good, but I mean, Affinity is used to having a slightly worse matchup after sideboarding.
Yep.
But this depends almost entirely on the opponent's deck. It's not in your hands really how much sideboard hate they bring.
It's on one side it's an advantage for Affinity that the format is so diverse because people can't dedicate that many cyber slots. On the other side, I'm not really sure if it's able to beat a deck like Dead Shadows even without the cyber slots dedicated to it.
Oh, it has a good chance.
Yep.
It's not an easy matchup for either side, I think.
Hmm.
The Death Shadow deck really hopes to get to do this life total management that always benefits them. And with Affinity, you're threatening huge amount of damage in one turn, which is always difficult for the Death Shadow deck. Death Shadow prefers to play against a deck that can only attack for between 0 and 5 damage, something like this, because then you can just stay on 6 and your Death Shadows are going to win you the race.
Yeah, cranial plating on a flyer is very hard to handle.
Exactly.
Although they do have Fatal Push, so usually it will take 2 or 3 attacks.
But in one of the reasons we see more main deck edge champions is this matchup.
Yeah.
Because that's the card which is basically unblockable, unkillable, and will also block your Death Shadows forever. So That's the most scary card in this matchup. Not in the matchup we're watching, but in Affinity against Death Shadow. Actually, against Eldrazi and Taxes, protection from all colors is not all that great.
Yeah.
Wasteland Strangler, maybe Thought Not Seer, maybe Reality Smasher. We don't know exactly what's in Mateo's list.
Players shuffling up for game number 2. As we see Kowalski up a game 5-0 with his Affinity here at Grand Prix Birmingham. I hope you guys are enjoying the stream. Luckily we were able to repair the sound, so everything should go as normal. After this round, Rich Hagen will once again jump in if everything goes according to plan. We'll see who he brings as a guest this time around. Of course, this is a complete weekend of Modern, as 3 Grand Prix happening in different continents, all of them being Modern.
GP Sao Paulo, SEG Richmond, and of course this GP here in Birmingham. And it's rare that we have only Modern being played across the globe. Usually it's, you know, Modern somewhere, Standard somewhere else, maybe Limited, but this time it all aligns.
Yeah, and Modern also making a comeback at the Pro Tour, at Pro Tour Bilbao and at the Team Pro Tour, where we'll see 3 different formats: Legacy, Modern and Standard. Certainly going to be an interesting Pro Tour, that one. But first we'll be moving to Albuquerque in a couple of months for some more Standard. Let's take a look at Matteo Mori's hand. He's got Plains, Godless Shrine, 2 Thought Not Seer, a little bit of a slow hand, but we didn't see the other cards. Oh, and there we have the Ether Vial, also a Tidal Hollow Scholar, so not that slow. And look at that, Gregor Kowalski, he brought in Gurapur Ether Grid as a sideboard card. Why do you, against what do you think that is?
It's actually a way to win through Stony Silence.
Yeah.
But of course only if you have an explosive draw already. Can be helpful if you're expecting Katakis. And there are some relatively weak creatures like this Scholar that you can just pick off. Ooh.
Blood Moon? Do you like that cyber card? Against
well,
the deck with the Ether Vial?
No, I'm very surprised. I don't think that's a good card to bring in this matchup. Maybe he brings it in against he very likely brings it in against Eldrazi Tron, but these are completely different decks. The fact that they both play Eldrazi doesn't really change that.
Matteo Mori is still taking a look at it.
Yeah, I mean the fact that I wouldn't brought it in doesn't mean it's could be the card to take here. If Matteo doesn't have, for example, the black sources in his hand, he might be thinking, okay, this Blood Moon is the scariest card for me. I would be surprised because Gregor doesn't really have anything that ramps out this.
Moxop will not have enough artifacts already, so it will take at least one more turn.
So bringing in the Blood Moon worked out. It got exiled.
It's the scare factor. Ooh, look at my fancy cyber card. You gotta take it now, right?
Well, to be fair, the Ether Grid is also a sideboard card.
Simon.
Maybe even the spell.
Why do you always have to spoil the fun?
Sorry, I'm just too rational.
It's your nature. We all know that. Well, look at that. He does have the Wasteland Strangler ready to kill the Master of Ethereum if needed, but no Master of Ethereum gonna be this turn. Still only one artifact for Gregor. Could activate the Nexus to get a second one.
But what is this hand by Gregor? It looks either he over-sideboarded or his starting hand was just really unfortunate with regards to.
It's the 3-drop Affinity draw.
Yeah, he didn't have Steel Overseer. He didn't have Springleaf Drum Acceleration. He didn't have a Ravager. No plating, and
maybe he was too afraid of Stony Silence, and he had the Spell Pierce plus the Master of Ethereum. He had a pretty good hand against that draw, but unfortunately his hand is pretty bad against the creature draw. Well,
the problem is your opponent is not going to have only Stony Silence, right?
No.
Maybe they will have Stony Silence and a few creatures, and if you can counter the Stony Silence but you lose to just random creatures, then your hand is still not really good. Of course, Gregor also drawing quite terribly.
And now a Dark Steel Citadel and a Master of Ethereum taking one from the Spire of Industries. Does go down to 17, but still plenty of life to play with. Master of Ethereum being a 3/3.
And And
No-
he keeps open the blue mana. That's the
Yep.
important part.
And it's big enough to survive the Strangler because of the Mox Opal activating the Nexus.
This could be quite relevant actually, if Matteo doesn't realize it.
Another Thought-Knots here. Gonna get rid of the final card in Gregor's hand. Might have been better to attack with the Thought-Knots here first. Interesting. Oh, this I like this play.
Because of the Strangler.
Yeah, the Ether Vial.
Tapping out before attacking also.
Yeah. I like
Nice,
this play
nice.
by Matteo. Gregor
Take 6?
Kowalski. What's up here? Why are you attacking with your 2/2? I got this 4/4. Take it. He sees right through it. Take 6. Gregor Kowalski down to 11, facing 2 Thought-Knots here. Tight, the Hollow Sculler and Ether Vial. Draw the Nexus. That's not going to be a big help here. This draw was not very good for Kowalski. I think a lot of players would have mulliganed that hand.
Yeah, me too. I understand the reasons for keeping it, but ultimately you are playing Affinity. You cannot play a long game against. Well, you don't want to play a long game in this matchup.
Matteo does draw a second Strangler. He's gonna fire it, but he's got enough cards in the exile. There's still the Spell Pierce and the Ether Grid as well. So that Master of Ethereum should die this turn. Targeting. Yeah. Response, activate my Nexus, make it a 4/4. Sure, go ahead. Is he gonna do it?
Double trigger on the master, right? The alternative is to kill the Nexus, but then the other Nexus saves the
Yep.
master. I think it's just cleaner to get rid of the master. Okay, it costs you two wasteland stranglers, but then your opponent is left with absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and as far as I know, there's no card in Affinity that deals 4 damage to every creature. There might be, I don't know, something like it used to be Pyroclasm or
Whip Flare.
Yeah, Whip Flare.
Whip Flare is basically Pyroclasm, except it doesn't hit artifact creatures.
But you would need double Whip Flare here, and as we know, he's not holding it. Facing these double Thought-Knot Seers. He's getting in. Tight Hole Scar can attack as well now, but it seems like he's not going for that one.
No, I mean the Scholar is scared of the Blinkmoth Nexus
Yeah,
for a reason,
with double
because
pumps.
yeah, it can pump itself. So that I think this is all very tightly played by Matteo. It looks like he really knows how to play this particular deck, with the attack that we saw the turn before, threatening the instant speed Wasteland Strangler. I'm quite impressed.
There we have it. Game number 2 to Matteo Mori and his Eldrazi and Texas deck. Didn't see one of his hate cyber cards, but it still was enough.
He didn't need one. This
Yeah.
is the crucial point. Also, I think the Title Scholar can be quite good against Affinity when they desperately look for this one scary card in their opening hand and you just take it. They can also have trouble.
He actually cybered out Edge Champion, as we talked about. He doesn't really like these against the Stranglers.
But we expected that, right? Against Strangler, against Thought-Knot Seer. I like Galvanic Blast quite a bit. I
Yep.
think that's
A one-mana answer to...
to Thought-Knot Seer.
He did bring in a second Dispatch, which
Yeah,
is
but
also a one-mana answer.
And I think he took out the Ether Grid because he realized the Ether Grid doesn't do anything. I would also take out the Blood Moon.
Well, that one got exiled. That must be good, right?
True.
Signal Pass goes back in. Maybe in game 3 when you're on the play, do you often change cyber plans between game 2 and 3, whether you're on the draw or on the play? Like let's not take into account what your opponent has cybered, because sometimes you react to what your opponent has cybered, but let's not take that into account. Let's take into account just the fact that you're on the play or on the draw.
I think it makes a big difference. It really depends on the matchup. In some matchups it makes zero difference. In others it makes a lot of difference. Let's give a simple example. If you play the Burn Mirror and you're on the draw, you want to play as controlling of a game as possible. Maybe your opponent will even put you on the play because they think it's the better play. It's the better approach to the game. But in this kind of situation, I know when I'm on the play with Affinity, my most explosive draws just become better. I would play less reactive cards, trying to, for example, beat Stony Silence or counter Stony Silence. I would just try to be maximize my chances of getting a super explosive draw. So I also think Signal Pest is in a pretty good spot in this matchup. No flyers for Matteo to block with. I like it.
And is it also something, like you say, it makes difference when playing? Is it something you think about when building the sideboard? When you make cyber plans, you also have this on the play, on the draw sideboard guide, or that's something you figure out while playing?
For me, it's the latter. I know that a lot of players like sideboard guides, even having them written down, and we actually saw Kowalski take a look at his list. These sideboard guides actually often ignore who's on the play and who's on the draw. So I think you're actually losing equity if you just do it by the book. Unless I'm playing a deck for, let's say, the first time and I'm really unsure of what to do, I always prefer to not have a written sideboard guide, but just to figure it out while I'm playing. This somehow leaves me more free to trust my intuition.
And off they go. This time a better draw for Gregor Kowalski. 4 permanents on turn 1. That's what he wants, right? What else is he holding? He's got the Galvanic Blast, a Master of Ethereum, and the Ether Grid. That's quite a good draw this time.
Yeah, once again an Ether Grid. Let's see how it matches up with Matteo's draw. If the Ether Grid really has good targets, it could be an all-star here. Oh, and immediately the bad draws start. Second Mox Opal.
Another nice interaction in the deck for Matteo Mori is actually Flicker Wisp plus the Strangler, getting rid of the permanent permanently. It won't come back at the end of turn. Of course, the Ether Grid, quite a good card against Flicker Wisp. I could see that one work out. Does he have 3 mana? Yeah, he does, so he can play the Master of Ethereum. But after that, he doesn't have much gas.
Yeah. This is always the downside of playing a list that is burn heavy with the Galvanic Blast. You can just flood out of you can flood with these non-threatening cards that aren't even artifacts, so they don't really do much for you. Also quite aggressive with the Mox Opal there. Maybe scared of the Sculler. Wanted to be able to shoot it directly. I'm not so sure if I like this.
Yeah, but shooting the Sculler directly is not a good.
Not if you have another card in hand, right?
Yeah.
So, I would have kept the Mox Opal in hand, I think.
Matteo slowly building up to his Strangler combo with Flicker Wisp. That could actually get rid of 2 permanents, as we know. Master of Ethereum gets in 1, 2, 3, 4. So far, no activation, so he's just gonna go for the Ether Grid. Ether Grid looking pretty good in this game, since you have the fast start to go for. And now also holding up 2 artifacts to either shoot or to tap for mana with the Galvanic Blast. For example, against the Sculler.
Yeah, did give up 1 damage though. The Ornithopter could have attacked.
Yeah, but he can shoot for 1.
Yeah, it's in the end it's the same basically.
So Matteo could now tie the Hollow Sculler, hoping to grab that last card, but that's not gonna pay off. There won't be a card exile actually, so he cannot go for the Strangler. This is actually huge.
This could actually be a reason why Kowalski was so aggressive and emptying his hand. And we might see exactly this interaction now.
Tie the Hollow Sculler for Matteo Mori. What you got, Kowalski? Let me see it. Kowalski is, wait a second. I've got this 1 red mana here.
It looks like he's calling a judge, right?
Maybe he needs to know how the card works. This is not a Thought-Knot here. It is a Tidal Sculler. If you kill it in response, what will happen is the trigger is still on the stack, Tidal Sculler dies, and then the trigger will resolve. But as Kowalski will have no cards in hand at that point, nothing will get exiled. If Kowalski is holding 2 cards, then the Galvanic Blast will resolve, the Sculler will take the second card, and it will stay exiled forever.
The only real choice here is whether you kill the Scholar with your Galvanic Blast or if you shoot Matteo for 4. That's the way.
Or you could just hope to kill the Scholar with the Ether Grid with 2 pings
and just leave the Galvanic Blast, but that's crazy against the Wasteland Strangler that you're expecting.
And now, as we see, Galvanic Blast goes to the face. Matteo Mori already down to 12.
Kowalski also doesn't have infinite artifacts to tap. If you look at his board, it's really not that many.
Is he still holding 2 Stranglers? I think I would have gone to and play one.
Depends on the rest of his hand.
How big is the
right?
Master of Ethereum? It could be
4/4?
a 6/6. Yeah. Problem is if it can become a 6/6, you cannot double block. But you gotta start somewhere. With the Ether Grid, you're probably losing the late game. Let's see what he draws. Signal Pest, not the best draw, but not too bad either. Does pump up the Master of Ethereum to a 5/5, 7/7 if both lands get activated. Gregors Kowalski, he's gotta do some counting here. Attack for 7, shoot you for 2. Actually quite a difficult math, because there's, every artifact you tap to activate a Nexus also means you cannot tap 2.
Absolutely. This playing Affinity is not trivial, as long as you don't overrun your opponents completely. Here we see actually that the Scholar eats more damage than the Galvanic Blast would have dealt. So ultimately Matteo getting more life out of the Scholar. Not that it makes a big difference, because currently Matteo is just losing on board. He needs almost something like a Damnation, which he probably doesn't have.
He can Flicker with the Master and then Strangler, kill 2 creatures. That's that's a start.
That's a really good start. Yes. Then it's just Ether Grid against the rest.
Consulting the judge. What should I do? Would you play this or this? That's not gonna work out, of course. Judges cannot help. There might be a question about Ether Grid. Can he Flicker Wisp the Ether Grid?
I think Flicker Wisp is target permanent, but why would he want to?
Yeah, it's another target, because he might not be able to raise that one. I mean, his 3/1 and his 3/2 will just die to it.
And you think, well, his 3/1 will die anyway if he tries to Flicker it. This is a part of the problem.
The problem is that if he does that, he has not really a way to deal with the Master. Oh, he has. He drew a Path to Exile.
Okay.
I think what he's gonna happen this turn is he gets rid of the Master of Ethereum with Path to Exile, then the Ether Grid, and then play the Strangler. This is a huge turn for Matteo.
So actually it will probably be Flicker Wisp first, get rid of Ether Grid, lose the Flicker Wisp, but then the Strangler actually takes out, let's say, Signal Pest, maybe?
Yep.
Then probably suddenly Kowalski has nothing and needs to draw a plating to be back in the game.
There we have it, the start. Path to Exile on the Master of Ethereum. Let's see if Gregors Kowalski has a response. Seems like he does not. He's gonna take a look, search for a basic land. No Leonin Arbiter in play, so doesn't have to pay 2.
Affinity plays usually 1 basic. This heavy red version, I was expecting the mountain. In theory, there could also be an island in there because of the Master of Ethereum, the blue sideboard cards. It's not impossible to play 2 basics in Affinity. It's just very rarely seen.
Yeah, especially now with Spire of Industries, another land that got added to the mix.
The new land really makes it easier to support even more colors after sideboarding. Still, overboarding on colored cards is still a danger.
Now we're gonna see. Trim, activate my vial for 3. Flicker Wisp. Actually, the Flicker Wisp Strangler combo is quite a good deal there.
I like it a lot. And here, I'm very sure that Kowalski responds by killing the Flicker Wisp. But you might also be thinking, well, I'm getting back the grid anyway, end of turn, so I can just wait. But here, of course, we know that's not going to happen.
Shoot, tap my Signal Pest and Ornithopter. Kill your Flicker Wisp. Yep, there we go. Exile. Tap my Eldrazi Temple for 2 mana. And my Shambling Vents. Kill the Signal Pest. Get rid of the Eater Grid. That's quite a deal.
Really nice.
And it seems after this match, after this game, actually, we will have Rich come in with Luke Southward from Team Harlequins. They're gonna take a look at a Time Walk match, which we've recorded. More magic for you guys. Always fun to show you as much magic as possible. As we continue to take a look at Matteo Mori against Gregor Kowalski, round number 6 here at Grand Prix Birmingham. Both of these players 5-0. A win here secures them day 2, but I'm sure they're looking for more after starting out 6-0. Let's see what Gregor starts with. He's gonna go for the Infect way. Well, if your opponent's at 12, you only need to deal 10 Infect. Now he's gonna go for both. There we go. He could like go in for 2 Infect if he pumps.
Hedge a little bit.
He's gonna go. He's gonna bet on 2 horses here. Gregor Kowalski does mean he didn't draw the plating or anything bigger. Steel Overseer would have been quite a good draw. Another Master of Ethereum. Instead, it's just gonna be the Volt Scourge.
Yeah. So this tells me that he still wants to win through damage, but it was virtually free to attack also for 1 point of poison, which can make a difference. It did cost him 2 life though.
And let's not forget that there is still the Ghost Quarter for Matteo Mori to even get rid of one of the Nexus. And Shambling Vent's gonna take 2 points of damage off Gregor's and gain 2 life for Matteo, so he's putting up a good fight. This is a straight down beatdown race.
Yeah, I have to say I like this Eldrazi and Taxes deck a lot more than the mono white deck that we saw earlier today. The Wasteland Strangler in particular is very impressive.
Yeah, Tidehole's color. This mono white version is not as good, I think, against Dead Shadow because it doesn't have Mirroring Crusader, which is quite a beating against Grixis Dead Shadow, but it might be in the sideboard.
You can still play it. You have the Ether Vials.
It's kind of hard on the mana, I think, because you have Eldrazi Temple as well as colorless mana. You might have some Swamp or at least one.
And you have to support your Flicker Wisps already, so.
And you can't run too many 3-drops either. If you have the Strangler and the Flicker Wisp.
That's probably the main reason, yeah. The curve.
Let's see, Gregor Kowalski, he's down to 13. And there's still the Eater Vial, threatening another Wasteland Strangler, and there's still the Master of Ethereum exiled from pad to exile. Volt Scourge, get in. Matteo takes a look at his life pad. 12 life. Can I take one more? Gets in for 1. Switch. 13-12. Steps 2 mana. Another Volt Scourge. Of course, this is something you gotta be aware of. Volt Scourge, you can also tap 2 mana. There's Mox Opal, which produces black mana. No need to take 2 life.
I'm quite sure that Kowalski is planning to block with Inkmoth Nexus here, and then use the other ability of Blinkmoth Nexus to make it a 2/2. Matteo can use Ghost Quarter to prevent one of his Wasteland Stranglers from dying, but the fact that Kowalski is taking these defensive lines is already telling you quite a lot about how the game progressed.
Yeah, and Matteo actually drew Stony Silence. Is that gonna shut the door? Is that gonna be Silence dead for Affinity?
It actually doesn't have a huge impact on this board. If we're honest, it stops 2 of the mana artifacts, not much more. But of course, Kowalski was already in a pickle.
The draws, it impacts the game on a longer. Yeah.
Top deck cranial plating.
Yeah. Plating no more. Steel Overseer doesn't do anything. Even shutting down these 2 lands is quite relevant. Can he still pump now? He cannot, right?
No, this is.
This doesn't work anymore either.
This is not the land you wanted to animate. I'm pretty sure you wanted to animate Inkmoth Nexus and block with it.
Yep. Let's see. Can he still draw something? Another Ether Grid would be a start, maybe.
I still don't like this card in this matchup. I don't see
It was gonna be good if it hadn't gotten exiled.
I'm still not sure if it would have been enough to win actually.
How? He's got 4 artifacts. He's killing all of these creatures turn by turn. Flicker was dead.
And then Reality Smasher, and you just.
Simon, you have to convince me, man. I'm pretty sure it would have been.
Oh, okay. We'll take this game as our first showing of Ether Grid, and then we will.
Okay. We will not take a look at the game 2.
Keep score.
Okay,
throughout the weekend.
Are you guys ready for 10 more matches of Eldrazi and Texas against Affinity? We need some more evidence.
No, after round 9 we will play a few.
Okay.
Then on Sunday we will
tell them.
Present the results.
Here we go. Attack for 2. Volt Scourge and Nexus gets in 9-9. But Matteo definitely ahead on the board. Also still has that Shambling Vents if he wants to. And now draws a Flicker Wisp. Seems like another match is actually going in our feature match area. It's Raphael Levy and his, good old Dredge. He's been playing it forever. Like, just needs to find a different version every tournament. Once he plays Golgari Grave Troll, when he cannot do that, he goes back to Zombie Infestation or something different.
You think he's challenging himself to change it up every time, or
he's like the Craig Wesco of Dredge.
Craig Wesco only playing from your graveyard.
Yeah,
but only in Modern.
Yeah, that's true. In come the Clowns, Double Strangler and Shambling Vents attacking, facing 8 damage, Gregor Kowalski, if he doesn't block. Still not lethal, but very close to it. Let's see. Are we going to see a chump? The race is not in his favor.
Yeah, that's very generous description.
Matteo Mori up to 10. Did he take 1 from the caves of Koilos? Gregor's down to 1. He actually drew the plating last turn.
Drew the plating just after Stony Silence arrived. Yeah, this is of course the best possible timing. The worst possible timing for Kowalski. And Arcbound Ravager not much better. I think this is now...
Nothing wrong with the 2 mana 1/1. With
modular
1. Yeah. It's the 2 mana Arcbound Worker. Kowalski down to 1 life. He's gonna tap both his Nexus to play that Arcbound Ravager. Either Vial, of course, cannot be activated. Let's not forget about that. Stony Silence is still in play. Matteo untaps, draws Tidehollow Scholar. I think he'll just take a look and see. The coast is clear. You got nothing. That plating not gonna save you.
You can just animate to the Shambling Vents again
for the triple chump.
Yeah, you have 3 lethal attackers. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
If Kowalski has a Galvanic Blast, okay, only 2 creatures have to jump. That's just an easily winning line, and you know that Kowalski just drew this Arcbound Ravager. He didn't have it last turn. He would have played it.
Slowly but surely, Gregor Kowalski is gonna pay the taxes and die to these Eldrazi's, as the deck is designed to do.
Would you consider playing Black-White Eldrazi?
At the Pro Tour Bilbao, I'll have a think about it.
Okay. Good.
Will you help me build the right version?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it already, but...
Yeah, he's got the perfect 75. Maybe he's just winning this whole tournament. I mean, he's off to a very good start. 6-0 very soon here at Grand Prix Birmingham. He's gonna get rid of that Volt Scourge. Gotta make sure you don't gain more life. Attack with my 2 Stranglers. Gonna see a double chump. What you gonna do with the modular? Ah, there we have it. Tap the mountain, activate one of my Nexi. Seems like Gregor likes to die slowly. I mean, what is he drawing to? Is there a card that could save him?
The way he's playing is
Maybe
almost
Whipslayer?
almost like he still has hope. Yeah, it's funny, right? It's like, yeah, how do I manage this now? Only 3 creatures on the opponent's side. Only one Stony Silence.
Untap my 3 lands and my 2 artifacts that do nothing. Draw Galvanic Blast. Let's take a look.
Opponent only on 10. I've already dealt a point of poison, you know, it's...
These Eldrazi's, they always get you.
Yeah, that's my experience as well.
Yeah?
Whenever
Whether it be a 10 mana one or a 3 mana one, they always just get you.
I always just lose.
To everything or just to Eldrazi's?
Mostly Eldrazi.
1 white. And that's just how good Stony Silence is. It can actually work against you with the Ether Vial and still be back-breaking. You said it wouldn't have too much of an impact, and then Gregor's next draw, Cranial Plating, would have won him the game right on the spot with the Volt Scourge. Tidal Sculler, let me take a look. Gregor Kowalski says, no. I need to fire off this Galvanic Blast first. Do you get rid of... Well, not the Flicker Wisp, I'm guessing.
How... You're forced to chump block now, so the Flicker Wisp at least only takes 1 point of power. Now Matteo has
and another Path to Exile seals the deal. Matteo Mori up to 6-0 with his pretty nice looking Eldrazi and Texas. Well, he did have some good draws. Ether Vial on turn 1 twice in the games he won. As we said, it is a lot of it changes a lot of the dynamic for the deck, but he did have a Cyber Plan ready for this matchup, and I'm sure his matchup against Dead Shadow is not that bad. He's got a lot of removal, got Fatal Pushes and Path to Exile. But anyway, look at that. Dredge against TitanShift, 2 heavy hitters of the Grand Prix scene in Europe. Simon Nielsen against Raphael Levy. Raphael's graveyard is filled with sweet, good cards. That's how he likes it. But does he have enough against the Ravenous Ballad now from Simon Nielsen?
And Simon is sitting there with 7 lands already, so Scapeshift is scary for Raph. Conflagrate, but how many cards in hand? 4? Conflagrate is just one of the most insane cards in Dredge.
Yep. It's hard to play 4 because you want to dredge it and you don't want to really dredge 2, but then again you just want to always dredge it.
I think we had this exact discussion at the last Modern GP we did together. Life from the Loam, and then just suddenly there is 7-8 damage for 2 mana out of nowhere. So maybe Raph has a chance here.
It's actually one of the ways how Dredge does beat Dead Shadow by a very big Conflagrate. Dead Shadow might think, yeah, you got nothing, I'm still at 8, and then you deal 8 out of nowhere. Maybe even 6 and get back some Bloodghast with haste. They have 2 minutes left here in round 6. Simon Nielsen against Raphael Levy, who's going to go to 5-1 and looking very good to make day 2, and who will have to put up some fight. The Dredge deck did get a lot worse, right? With the banning of Golgari Grave Troll, but as it's still going, I guess it just shows how good it was before the banning.
How insane it was before.
Yeah.
It's still very, very playable though, which is a really nice thing that you ban something and you end up with a deck that's still inherently powerful and playable.
Yeah. I especially like it that it's not broken anymore. It's just good, which is healthy. I think the Conflagrate should get exiled. There we go. What's the blue card that's in the exile? We just cannot see it. So Fatalist looting now. Just gonna dredge some more. Look at these Stinkwidims. Who needs Golgari Grave Troll anyway? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. One blood gas.
I almost want to say it's an Aftermath card, but no.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
Consigned to Oblivion?
Maybe the one that's like draw 7.
Whoa.
Puts a card on top
No,
and
I
then
don't
draw
think
7? No? It's an answer to Rest in Peace. Attack you for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Puts him at 9, which is convenient because that makes future. Ooh. Oh, he needs the land, does he?
No. He has 7, right? 7 is 18 damage.
Then why didn't he do it last turn?
I thought he didn't have the mana. Maybe he did.
Yeah, he did have 7. I'm surprised why he didn't. Maybe there was some reason we're missing, but it seems like this is actually game. Scapeshift in hand. Does he have enough lands left? 1 mountain.
This could have been a reason. Sometimes the number of lands doesn't match up, or
Yeah, maybe he needed another mountain. Maybe he needed the 8 land for.
no, it
No,
doesn't. That doesn't
no.
really make sense.
Maybe he
right?
has only 5 mountains and he needed double Valakut. No, he's got 6, so that's enough. I had it. Flip, Blood Crypt, not gonna help. There we have it. Simon Nielsen moves to 5-1, beating Hall of Famer. It's the blue-white one. Oh, that was what happened. He couldn't play it. Something got bounced, and then he said you cannot play Scapeshift this turn. Sweet old cyber card from Raphael Levy. Wow. We were like, what is happening? Why doesn't he play the lethal Scapeshift? Well, that was quite the ending of the round 6 here. We have some more Time Walk magic with Rich and Luke Southward. So don't you guys run anywhere. We'll have more magic coming up.